Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through the industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Grace Johnston. She is a multifaceted, passionate entrepreneur, and she designs beautiful gardens and teaches people how to recover from emotionally abusive experiences and relationships. Welcome to the show, Grace.
Thank you so much, AJ. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Same here, Grace. Same here. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll be talking about how one can overcome their fear of selling. You are multi-passionate entrepreneur. So I will, you have you know about businesses, about entrepreneurship, dog walking business in college, and then web design business after college, and right now you are into beautiful gardens and all this, this industry. So I want to understand about this. Help us understand. But before that, let's talk about a bit of your journey, about your entrepreneurship. Is it beyond that? You also talk about trauma healing. You also talk about toxic relationships. So tell us a bit about that. That shows that you have had to come up a difficult path, but finally you have achieved what you wanted to successful in business.
Yes. So I had a very difficult childhood. I grew up in a very low income household, and my parents fought all the time, and I did not have very much emotional support growing up. And really, as I became older, entrepreneurship was a path to create the life that I desired, to take back control of my future and my lifestyle and my relationships.
Right. So how did entrepreneurship come in your mind? Normally during college, people think of taking up some job which can give some extra income, but you started with this dog walking business. That must be some years from now. So I want to understand why entrepreneurship versus the safety of a part-time job or full-time job whenever it was possible.
Sure. So I worked in the restaurant industry for about 10 years. I worked very, very hard to make very, very little money. And when I went back to college, I did go get a job in a coffee house, and I made very, very little money, and it was terrible. And so I decided to start a dog walking business. And within a month, I was immediately making 4 times as much money in my dog walking business, working my own hours as I was in my job.
Wonderful. So that was your lesson in business. And now your lesson for others also, that if you are considering entrepreneurship, don't just let it be a fleeting thought. Think about it much more seriously, because it can be the door to your dreams that you have put for yourself. So I want to understand, the selling part, the fear of selling. Otherwise, also people are a bit more fearful about things, about success itself. Sometimes you can be fearful. So I want to understand specifically about selling, changing different businesses that needs a lot of selling, sometimes to the same people, but about different businesses. Help us understand about this selling. Did you have also the fear of selling, or was it from the very beginning you found it very comfortable?
So my experience in many years in the restaurant industry told me how to work with people and told me how to relate to different people differently. But I had to work very, very long and hard to overcome the fear of selling. I used to stutter. I used to get very sweaty when I started to have selling conversations, would get very, very nervous. And now I love to sell. I absolutely love it, because I finally realized selling is just sharing what brings you joy in your heart. Selling is just excitement to help someone and to educate people about what lights you up.
Right. So how did you manage this fear of selling. uh, People are very hesitant. They think that you need to be manipulative, you need to manipulate the situation, that you need to talk about sales all the time, and people are fearful. Even very confident people are fearful for asking someone else money for their expertise or services. I want to understand then, how did you overcome your fear of selling, and how can others do it for themselves?
Sure. So, very first off, I think the most important thing is jump in the pool. Just like when you're learning how to swim, just jump in the pool. You have to put yourself in situations that make you feel uncomfortable. And the more you do that, the more successful you will be. The other thing is, most people do not sell through their heart, they sell through what they are feeling in their wallet. So forget about the money in your bank account and just focus on the person in front of you. Focus on how you can help them, how you can improve their life, how you can educate them, bring them value. And that energy is contagious. And once people see that you're honestly trying to help and that you're not thinking about your wallet during that conversation, then magic happens. Then they open up to you. Then they tell you exactly what they need, which is exactly what you need to sell them. And then they'll go tell their friends and neighbors about you as well.
Right, right, Grace. But you see, isn't this a long road to looking at sales? People say there is no only networking is required. Just go and make the sale, and it should be done. Why go the long road? You are not building relationships. You are out there to sell. Why to sell after 100 years? Why not now? Help us understand this mindset versus what you are saying.
Sure. So selling is always about relationships. And relationships are the fabric of the world, whether it comes to sales or not. So when I have friends tell me that they are uncomfortable selling, I think, well, people are just people, and you have to treat people as people in front of you without focusing on sales. And if you are a naturally genuine and authentic person, then people will ask you, what are you doing? What are you up to? And then selling just happens easily. Selling is not about persuasion or coercion or forcing people to like you. At the core center of sales is liking yourself and liking to talk to people. And that's really it.
Right, right. Now, Grace, help us understand, while you were looking at different businesses, one business to another, then you moved on to a proper job also as a marketing director in a in a firm. So all those things in the home front, things were not so comfortable for you. How did you manage these part? Nowadays also people face a lot of issues. Some people, not all, but there are always these issues within relationships, with a partner, in families, with parents, with other relations. How did you manage it? How did you look at it? Were you very disturbed, or you just cut yourself away mentally first, and then later on to? I want to understand your mindset as well as motivation during those tough years, whenever they were.
Sure. So my motivation was always about independence and freedom, and being able to choose what I do with my time and being able to choose how much money I get to earn. So that was always a point of friction with my family. I come from a long line of doctors, lawyers, teachers, and nurses, very proper jobs. Um, and my family just really struggled to understand, why do you want to play in all these different businesses? And I think some of us are just hardwired to want to play with lots of things, which is where the term multi-passionate comes in. I am hardwired to want to play with lots of different things, and I always have been. And I don't know that my family will ever understand. It confuses a lot of people, but I think Some of our listeners will relate to, I like to play with lots of things too. And to answer your follow-up question, my mental health journey and my business growth have always been interwoven. It's never been like do mental health and then do business. It's a constant evolution of tessellating those parts, fitting them together, learning, growing, continually improving and evolving along the way, and taking lots of uncomfortable actions every day.
Right. People are not able to decide during those times, either because of cultural reasons or for other reasons, either for financial reasons, they are dependent. What would you advise when people have to deal with some issues like this? It could be very close relationship, including your parents also, because their perspective might be different, yours might be different, and there is no common ground that is coming up. For how, what would you advise? How should they evaluate this sort of a situation for themselves?
Well, it's really difficult to do that because the world was very different 50 years ago. We are in a very, very different place now, where conversations that were not acceptable 50 years ago are being had all over the internet every second of the day now, like on your show. So it's a different place. For my family, I think I had to just accept the fact that they weren't necessarily going to understand my choices and to do those choices anyway. So to let go of judgment and just to kind of say, okay, the judgment and criticism stops here. It doesn't affect me and what I'm doing in my business. And the other thing is, sometimes it's helpful to gate certain topics to say, Mom, I don't really want to talk about work today, or I'd prefer we not talk about money right now. Our parents have very, very different ideas around money and work than we do. And we have many, many more options. There are literally hundreds of thousands of jobs that exist now that were never heard of 50 years ago. So it's, in a way, it's not fair to expect our parents to understand how the world works in our lives.
Okay, so you mean there are situations where it will be very difficult for one to explain their point of view to their parents or any close relationships. Why is there discord? Why can't they understand when they themselves are also existing in the same time and time zone? Because they are also observing things. Why do we distance ourselves from the reality of today, even if we are growing, growing at our own pace, and the new generation will come in, but we have to also keep pace. How do you want to, advise or suggest for people who are, who are growing up, who are getting older, and in terms of keeping pace with their with their children and all?
So the number one most important thing that I would say to young entrepreneurs is that your intuition is the biggest shortcut between where you are now and your dream life. Your intuition and what you feel in your gut is 100% true, no matter what anybody else thinks. The second thing that I would say is we are all living with a set of rules in our head that came from our parents. So our parents are still living with the set of rules from their parents, right? 100 years ago. And to an extent, we still subconsciously feel that we should honor our family. We should do what our parents have taught us to do because those are the right things, right? So that's a constant balance for every generation, for our generation and for our parents. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes, yes. So now all those not so good memories are in the past. How do you deal? Does it come to you again? Can it be sometimes traumatic, or does it impact your decision making? Does it also make you fearful? How do you deal with these things, if at all it happens?
Sure. So I run a support community for people who had emotionally abusive or neglectful parents growing up. In my personal experience, that resulted in me being extremely self-conscious, extremely doubtful of myself and my choices, and very unsure of who I was. And so I am constantly challenging and battling those ideas every day. And there are times when I still get nervous during a sales conversation, but the difference is now I'm closing $20,000 deals. So I'm scared and I'm doing it anyway, all the time.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now let's come to your business, the landscaping business. Why landscaping? Multi-passionate. Did you have a passion for this also?
Yes. So I have no formal education in landscaping whatsoever. I owned a marketing agency for 6 years. I was offered a very high paying job as a marketing director for a tech company in Seattle. And I left that job because I was absolutely miserable. I thought it was my dream job. It was all the money I could ever want. Money isn't enough, right? So I had a dark night of the soul. Who am I? What am I doing with my life? And I started to work in my garden, and I realized that brought me a lot of joy. I have been a gardener since I was 7 years old. I've always loved being outside and taking care of plants. And so I started to work in people's gardens after I left my marketing job. And it very, very, very quickly just snowballed into a business. My very first project was a $3,000 project. My second project was $10,000. And I now design gardens and work with local contractors to install and create beautiful spaces for people and their families to enjoy.
Wonderful. From web designing business to, landscaping business and designing gardens. It can't get better, and it can't get, more real and, in today's time. That's a wonderful story. So a lot of people who would want to know more about you, Grace, understand more from you, about you, engage with you professionally, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
So I am on Facebook. You can look up Grace Johnston in Charlotte, North Carolina. You can find me on Instagram at Grace Johnston Life.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, AJ.